Why don't we go ahead and get started? So I'm delighted to introduce Iryna Gurevich from the University of Darmstadt, Germany. And she has made a number of foundational contributions to natural language processing and machine learning. Is past president of the ACL and a fellow of the ACL, in addition to a variety of other honors and accolades. Most recently has done a bunch of exciting work on AI for science, and that's what she's going to talk to us about today. So take it away, Iryna.
Thank you so much, Doug. Hello, everybody. Really great to be here. The title of my talk is Welcoming AI as a New Colleague. How should we evaluate AI for science? So it will have sort of this evaluation touch throughout my talk. It goes without saying we live in extremely exciting times. We see an unprecedented transformation of scientific work. Just to illustrate this, I have an example graph from an organization called METER, which is a nonprofit research organization specialized on model evaluation and threat research. And the graph shows that the length of the tasks measured by how long these tasks take humans to be performed doubles every 7 months. So that means that frontier models can complete autonomously the tasks of this length with 50% reliability, and approximately every 7 months, the length of the task is doubled, which is very impressive. And if we think about it, the news about AI scientists is just 1.5 years old. So in my opinion, this is the speed of this development is quite mind-blowing, and there is a lot of debate. So the science as such is much polarized. So there are people who are excited about this development, and there are people who hate this development. And currently, the future is not really clear how things are going to evolve. Science is a very complex process, as we all know, and it consists of multiple steps. So this is just one illustration taken from the original AI scientist paper with different phases of idea generation, experiment, iteration, and paper write-up, including reviewing, and each of them consists of a complex workflow with challenging tasks. And automation can bring the cost of many of these steps down to a very low number. But the costly process is actually the verification of these results. And for this, currently we don't have a lot of solutions, which emphasizes the role of the evaluation in science. So AI scientists opened a new era of AI systems for research, and now we have a whole bunch of such systems. Their number is exploding. Some of them are conceptualized being end-to-end. Some of them are conceptualized for specific domains or individual steps of the scientific workflow. So this is a slide I have borrowed from my friend Yue Zhang in China, who works on a system in the AI scientist domain. And now we see such systems appearing, and we also see researchers being interested in them, for example, to validate some approaches and also assess research questions in the sense that before deciding a research question, the researchers want to see how far one can go with automatic techniques, since for some types of research questions, these systems may provide very good drafts. So in our lab, we are very much excited about this vision of welcoming AI as a new colleague in the team. And in our vision, the future is a research team consisting of humans and AI agents. So not necessarily one human and one agent, but can be multiple humans and multiple agents working as a team. And they would bring complementary strengths to the team, and they will jointly co-construct a solution which can be a complex artifact, such as a research design, for example, or a scientific manuscript. And we think that the future is in human AI collaboration for multiple reasons, but some very intuitive ones is that the strengths of humans and automatic AI scientists seem to be complementary. The machines can work 24/7 and they never get tired. They can do a lot of combinatorial work, repetitive work, and would never complain about something being boring, while humans have the in-depth intuition about the topic. They can still better reason at deep level compared to models, and they are trained with a scientific workflow and understanding of the research process. And despite this intuitive notion that the strength of humans and machines can be combined, all that glitters is not gold. Often have you heard that told? So this is exactly the case here. And there has been a publication in Nature, Human Behavior, in October 24, which has done a meta-investigation when combinations of humans and AI are useful. They evaluated 184 studies. So this is not about combinations of human and AI in science specifically, but they looked at broad range of different creative tasks. And their study concludes that this is a very impactful and promising research area. However, the results vary a lot. So just roughly, in 50% of all cases, a combination of human and AI is better. But in 50% of all cases, either the human or AI alone is better. So it's an open question, how can we combine the intellectual power of a human and AI? And of course, the results could be even more challenging in the expert domain, which we have in the case of science as compared to general creative tasks. Last year, in a group of researchers, we have worked on this position paper published in the Computational Linguistics Journal, which proposes a framework for problem solving through human AI preference-based cooperation. So the main idea is that we formalize the problem solving or solution co-construction as a neurosymbolic approach, and we try to align the behavior of the AI agent with a human preference. Since in science, there is no ground truth for the most tasks, and different experts may have different preferences working towards a solution, and there might be also multiple solutions of the same utility. So, as I said, science is a complex scientific workflow consisting of different stages and multiple steps, of which each step can be quite a significant, ambitious undertaking. And in my talk today, I decided to focus on this last part, paper writing and publishing, where we deal with the steps such as drafting the manuscript, peer review, rebuttal, and revision, because this area is most close to text, and our background is natural language processing. So this is something that is easier for us to tackle in the first step. So in my talk, I'm going to present 3 pieces of work, which I formalize as 3 stories. And I'm going to also highlight specific aspects which are relevant for evaluating AI for science. Basically, evaluating AI for science boils down to the question of how to evaluate science in general. And I mean, this audience are all scientists, and we all know that this question is very hard and is basically unsolved. That's why we have this permanent discussion about the quality of peer review and different questions related to assessment of the impact of a scientific work. So as I said, I will focus on the project which are focused on AI-assisted scientific communication and discuss how the evaluation challenges evolve through these projects. So first, I will examine methods for assessing AI-generated related work sections. So this piece of work is basically generating a scientific manuscript using an example of a related work section. And we will talk about how can we evaluate this task using the user preference. And second, this is actual joint work with Tom, led by my PhD students, Osama. I will explore how automatic reviewers can be evaluated with respect to writing the novelty assessment section of a review. And in the last part of my talk, I will present one of our latest papers published at Tackle, which shows how automatic reviewers fail to detect faulty reasoning in research papers. So let's start with the first work, expert preference-based evaluation of automatic related work generation. This is joint work with Shubha Brata-Dutta, who is a postdoc in my lab, and the project is led by my PhD student, Furkan Zahunic. So scientific writing requires a lot of domain-specific knowledge, and also it is much shaped by expert preferences. As I said, there is no ground truth. If 10 people from this audience are to write related work section for the same topic, we come up with different texts. And these texts may be equally correct and also have the same quality or the same utility. Evaluating scientific writing is very hard because basically the current approaches do not apply very well to this domain. State of the art will either do a reference-free evaluation, so basically trying to holistically judge the quality of the text artifact, or use LLM as a judge approach. And this one is also inaccurate because it's not very good on expert text domains, and also it has various biases, as is well known. So in reference-free evaluation, we lack the human preference. As I said, the text may be good based on different preferences in various ways, and also large language models cannot reason very well over scientific text. They are not robust and prefer longer answers. So this work tries to create a proxy for expert evaluation that is an AI agent which is able to judge the scientific text accurately based on the user preference. And we use related work section generation as an example task in this work. So basically, the scenario is that we have a multi-turn evaluation where generation and evaluation follow each other by feedback. And the main idea is that we decompose the evaluation of text into a set of fine-grained dimensions instead of giving a single holistic score to a text. And we split these evaluation criteria in 2 types of criteria. We have classical related work section criteria. We call them hard constraints. For example, A hard constraint is that no citation may be hallucinated. So under all conditions, we don't want this. So this is a hard rule. And then there are expert specific preferences, and we call these soft constraints. So here, the idea is that some authors may prefer a positioning statement in the beginning of the related work section, and other authors prefer it in the end of the related work sections, and this may differ from person to person, so it's a soft constraint. So the input to the system is the main paper that we are writing and the cited papers represented by title, abstract, and introduction. And then we generate the first draft using a large language model. And then we apply these constraints. So we have the hard constraints, as I have explained. For example, if all provided papers have been cited, if we don't have hallucinated citation, if we can follow the citation context from the cited paper, and if the position statement exists, because it's a necessary requirement for a related work section. And then we have these individual preferences that distinguish the given draft from other potential drafts. And now the question is, how do we derive these user preferences? So here the idea is that we take existing high quality papers. So this is our oracle, or the so-called gold related work section. And we basically simulate user preferences by extracting these criteria from the ground truth related work sections. And then we would apply these criteria to a generated draft, and we come up with the evaluation report based on these individual criteria, and we generate a natural language text from this report and give this to the generator model in order to improve the draft. And this basically goes in a few iterations. So for some of these criteria, we propose to use LLM as a judge to judge them. But it is known that LLM as a judge, for example, for measuring coherence, fails in scientific text. So it misses the domain-specific context of the task, because vanilla LLM as a judge is trained for general tasks. So what we propose to do here is that we have the method called contrastive few short examples, where we, for specific criteria, create synthetic negative examples, and then we give positive and negative example. For example, for the criteria, does this draft provide overview of previous work to the model? And this way we can specialize the model to the scientific domain. So basically this slide shows the procedure of creating this training data in a greater detail. So looking at our experiments, we now have these different criteria, and we have several iterations of the model. So we experiment with different commercial and open models, and we find that large language models struggle to coherently cite prior work. So if you look at this graph, the results are pretty low, and the best performing model, O3 Mini, could only do it 20% of the time. So there's a big room for improvement here. Another result is that we find that improvement upon explicit feedback is quite rare, just if you visually look at the results. So over multiple steps, the results do not improve very much. And the models struggle in simple preference-based instructions, like adjusting the length. So for example, in the lower left corner, we see the length graph. And the only model which can improve the performance based on the feedback quite a bit is the O3 Mini, but the rest do not respond to the feedback very well. So there's a big room for improvement in utilizing this feedback in order to improve the quality of generation. We also perform expert evaluation of this work, where we basically validate the results of our specialized LLM as a judge, and we compare this with a baseline at the time, self-taught evaluator. Our systems are open, grep, and precise grep. Open is based on open models, and precise is based on commercial models. And we measure the correlation of preference in qualified humans. I think the minimal qualification for this task to assess which draft of the related work is better was having a PhD, and people had 13 papers on average, so pretty like high expert level of qualification. And we find that our models can improve the results compared to vanilla LLM as a judge. So the main takeaways from this work is there is a large scope for improvement for LLM-based generation of high-quality scientific text. As we have seen, the quality of the resulting text leaves a large room for improvement. And we have proposed grep as a specialized LLM as a judge method to better capture domain-specific criteria of scientific text quality. Our design provides greater granularity in interpreting evaluation results and improving subsequent generations. And also the outputs of our evaluation modules serve as faithful proxies for experts, reducing the cost of human-in-the-loop experimentation, which is, of course, a major roadblock for AI in science, since evaluation is extremely costly and requires very high level of expert qualification. And you can find further details in our manuscript. And there is already follow-up work, which I do not explain today due to time constraints, but people interested in this can read it. It has just appeared in the beginning of this year. And here we propose cost-efficient open source reward models tailored for scientific writing evaluation and scale the evaluation across different scientific writing tasks to enable fine-grained assessment based on dynamic criteria and scoring rubrics. So next, let me move to the second story of the day. So this is joint work with Tom, present in the talk as well, and is joint work with Preslav Nakov from MDZ-UI and Osama, who's my PhD student. So in this work, we deal with a scientific assessment of novelty. So this relates to peer review. However, novelty is just one specific dimension of the peer review. And all of us are used to statements like proposed solution is not novel enough, for example, written in a peer review, or some contributions of the technique are not novel enough. So basically, creating these manual novelty assessments is very time consuming and knowledge intensive. So people usually have to do background research to validate the work and the novelty of the work. And since the body of literature is exploding very fast, humans often lack the time, and also they may lack deep familiarity, which requires for comprehensive novelty assessment. The idea in this project is to provide an automatic approach or an AI-assisted workflow to significantly reduce workload and enhance decision-making quality about the novelty of a scientific manuscript. So the challenges of the novelty assessment have been already discussed, and the benefits could be reducing workload and enhancing the decision making. Now, the automatic manuscript review workflow that we propose consists of 3 stages. In the first stage, we pre-process scientific documents, resulting in a structured paper representation and the claim candidates. In the second stage, we perform related work discovery, where we generate search keywords for each paper, retrieve these papers using Semantic Scholar and rank them. So we come up with a curated and ranked related work set. And finally, we extract the novelty claim from a given text. And then we analyze the research landscape based on the related work discovery step. And we compare the claims of a given manuscript with the research landscape to come up with a novelty assessment. Novelty assessment performs structured extraction of 6 components. They are methods, problems, data sets, metrics, results, and novelty claims. And the delta is basically between the statements in the paper and this structured analysis. So this information flows into the final assessment report, which can be used by the reviewer. So the LLM as a judge framework is used here to assess these novelty reports, and we assess them along 4 different dimensions. Number 1 is novelty conclusion alignment. That is whether AI assessment reaches similar novelty conclusions as human reviewers. The second is novelty reasoning alignments. We want to see if we can align the reasoning of the machine and the reasoning of the human reviewer. Then the third dimension is prior work engagement. So here we check if the assessment demonstrates that there is adequate engagement with relevant literature rather than superficial analysis. And finally, we also check the depth of analysis, that is whether the assessment provides substantive and detailed evaluation rather than surface level observations. So one interesting outcome of this study is looking at the agreement of the human reviewers based on these 4 dimensions. So what we see here is that this task suffers from high variability in human judgments, which is not a big surprise. We all know that human review is subjective, but still it's quite interesting to see the numbers. And it is also interesting to analyze the reasons. So the main reasons we observe in our data is that reviewers often focus on different aspects of novelty. So for example, some reviewers may emphasize methodological contributions while others focus on application novelty, leading to different conclusions about the same submission under review. The second main reason is varying domain expertise. So here we observe that the background knowledge of each reviewer heavily impacts the assessment. So for example, if the reviewer is very much familiar with the field's history, it can correctly identify some prior work not mentioned in the manuscript, while if the reviewer is less familiar with the historical development of the field, they may miss such a comparison. And the third reason is assessment granularity. Some reviewers provide high-level judgments. They just say the approach is innovative, while others focus on very specific technical details. So this may also relate to the seniority of people and their generalistic scientific experience. And this variation in granularity contributes to disagreement, even when reviewers may agree on underlying facts. Their assessment may be different. So we compare with other systems for AI-based review that appeared last year, Open Reviewer, Deep Reviewer, and the baseline human versus human that I already mentioned. And we see that the automatic systems have some sentiment shift. So that means that human might have a neutral or negative sentiment with regard to novelty, but the LLM has a positive sentiment, which means there is a positive shift. So these systems have the sentiment shift, obviously, and our system as well has a positive shift. And we also observed that our system is significantly better in comparison to both AI-based review systems and human versus human on reasoning, alignment, and conclusion agreement. So, which is a very good result. And in ablation experiments, we find that the large part of the improvement we observe in our system is a very detailed human-informed prompt design. We give the system very detailed instruction how to evaluate the novelty of a scientific work. However, also structured extraction brings some improvement. So these are 6 elements that we extract to construct the research landscape. And in conclusion, we can say that we observe quite significant disagreement among human reviewers due to focusing on different aspects, while our system's comprehensive evaluation can align partially with each perspective. So we can better agree with each human than 2 humans among each other, because we cover the aspects more comprehensively. And our system's uniform approach might miss nuanced judgments that benefit from reviewer-specific expertise or viewpoints. So I've not discussed that in detail during the evaluation results, but intuitively it makes sense that humans have this nuanced judgment, which the machine usually does not have, because it's more optimized towards a comprehensive coverage of aspects, but less towards the nuance. So it does not know what might be a game changer in a given paper. So it treats each aspect equally. And yeah, so as I said, the humans have significant disagreement rate. That's why we also have these ongoing debates about the quality of human review. And this is a challenge which no system can fully solve, because it's inherent to science, where opinions about the merits of a scientific work may differ from one expert to another expert. So the preference of an expert is very crucial here. All right, so last, let me talk about the third work. On how automatic reviewers fail to detect faulty reasoning in research papers. So here we propose a new counterfactual evaluation framework, and the work is led by my final year PhD student, Niels Dykke. The main question is, how well can automatic reviewers, automatic review generators, ARGs here review? This is a popular question, and we want to test it. However, testing automatic reviewers for their reviewing abilities is not trivial. Generally, there are 2 approaches. The first one is we ask humans to judge the review and say if it's good or not. Or another is we compare the automatic review to human reviews, and then we use some automatic metrics or LLM as a judge approach. However, both types of evaluation have many shortcomings. Human judgment, as we have just discussed, is very subjective, and telling if a review is substantial or not, apart from surface cues, is very hard. Second, very important, human judgment does not scale. This work is extremely time-consuming. We cannot conduct these evaluations frequently, and human reference reviews are not a good ground truth. They are incomplete. We have just seen that in work number 2, and they only cover a fraction of all possible statements on the paper and can be noisy. So how should we test for good reviewing? So first of all, I'd like to emphasize that reviewing is not a single skill. It consists of many interconnected skills, including reading comprehension, reasoning on the read contents, and recall of knowledge. Last year at ACL, we have this paper Stricter, where we look more into the thought process of reviewing and study decision-making factors and variation in humans in a causal modeling framework. In the work I'm presenting today, I just want to focus on one of these skills, which is foremost a reasoning skill. That is the ability of automatic reviewers to identify flawed reasoning in research papers. And I will elaborate on this very soon. So now if we settle on a specific skill, then counterfactual evaluation becomes feasible. And counterfactual evaluation is a well-established and well-researched approach for small text pieces and classification scenarios. We need to transfer these techniques to our scientific domain. So conceptually, we take the original paper. We call this the factual paper. So we take high-quality manuscripts here, and then we do micro edits to these papers. We do the micro edits to the paper that affect the quality of the paper only with respect to the skill that we want to study. In our case, the consistency of the research logic of the manuscript. And we assume if the edits do not affect the contents of the paper, that is, they are just paraphrases, for example, then they should not lead to relevant changes in the meaning of the review. But if we break the logic of the paper, then we should see some difference in the resulting review. So we run both versions of the paper using the counterfactual micro edits and the factual paper, or the paraphrased paper through the automatic reviewers individually, and then we compare the output review reports. So for critical edits, the review should change in a meaningful way. And we look at many papers, so we should observe some average effect on a large number of papers. So this methodology allows us to get rid of the subjectivity of human judges or LLM as a judge, and also to get rid of reference reviews because they are noisy and also very subjective. And we just look at average effects of changes caused by these edits, either critical or non-critical. Now, we formalize the soundness of a paper as the soundness of its research logic. A paper makes some findings, like claims that we designate as F here. And each of the claims should be supported by at least one conclusion. And each conclusion should be interpreted from a set of results, and each result is produced by the methodological steps of the paper. A paper is only sound if all its components are supported in this way, forming this tree that you can see in the graph. And if one of the elements in the joint entailment relation is missing, or the relation does not hold anymore, the paper is not sound. So this is what we call flawed research logic. So for example, here in this graph, the result does not align with the conclusion. This means the research logic is flawed. And we use this structure to systematically make papers unsound for our counterfactuals. So this is the counterfactual evaluation pipeline. We have extracted the research logic of each paper, and then we introduce the soundness critical and soundness neutral counterfactuals. And also we have the original factual paper. Then the automatic review generator would generate the reviews, and then we compare these reviews, and then we can see if there is any shift due to the break in the logic of the paper. Our data set is based on ACL, ICLR, and NeurIPS papers, which are high quality accepted papers that we utilize here. And this graph summarizes the average effects in our experiments. So we have 3 review difference dimensions. So first is the number of soundness related comments. Here, the assumption is if we break the logic, we should have more soundness related comments in the review. And the sentiment should get worse if we break the logic, and also the score should get worse. But if you look at these results, so one striking observation is that there is no difference between red and blue. So red is critical edits, counterfactual edits, and blue is non-critical. That is, for example, paraphrases. This results basically highlight that automatic reviewers fail to detect flow research logic. They react in the same way to neutral and non-neutral edits. In addition, automatic reviewers appear to be very sensitive to surface paper features. Neutral edits have a high variance in their similarity to the original paper. And in additional analysis, we have confirmed that surface level edits sometimes invoke substantial changes in the reviews, with smaller and fine-tuned models showing lower consistency. So in this experiment, we have tested a wide range of large language models with zero-shot prompting and different prompt templates, plus an agentic approach, 3 reviewer and 2 fine-tuned models. So in conclusion, we can make the recommendations to test distinct reviewing skills in counterfactual experiments, rather than the common methodology of using comparison with human text or LLM as a judge. And also we propose to report multiple results on surface edited papers. As we have seen in the previous graph, there is a very high spread of the scores. So we need multiple results to draw sound statistical conclusions. And this results also highlights what I have mentioned in the beginning, that basically, despite the huge progress in artificial intelligence and large language models, in expert domains like science, there is a big potential for human AI collaboration, because the models struggle with specific tasks in the scientific workflow. So to summarize, specifically related to evaluating AI for science, in my first story of related work writing, we have proposed a method which splits holistic quality of a text artifact into a set of hard and soft constraints, the latter corresponding to human preferences. And we have proposed to specialize LLM as a judge with a contrastive training method that can allow better performance in the scientific domain. In the second story I presented, I talk about novelty assessment. And an interesting finding is that large language models can better align with each human individually than humans among each other. So this is an interesting result. And also the machine has much greater technical depth and specificity due to its strength, namely to more comprehensively analyze a huge body of prior work automatically, and also keep this overview updated. Now, in the last work, I talked about evaluating automatic review generation, and I've shown that automatic reviewers fail to identify research flows. And we emphasize that it is crucial to test reasoning and reviewing skills in the scientific domain in counterfactual experiments. So in summary, our vision is that in future, the research will be performed in teams of humans and machines, bringing complementary strengths and jointly co-constructing scientific solutions. And there will be a major shift from the currently dominating thinking of autonomous agents producing solutions which are plausible but very often incorrect, and the dominance of AI slop towards human AI preference-based cooperation in expert domains like science. And more results coming out of this project are presented in a dedicated website where you can look at further work we have done in this space. Just to conclude the talk, I'd like to mention a few works recently pre-printed. So one of them is on auditing author commitment in peer review. So this is when people commit some changes to the manuscript, but it's never checked if they actually amend the manuscript to realize these changes. So we propose a pipeline for that. Another work has been working on author in the loop response generation and evaluation. So this is when we are writing a response letter. So we usually have long rebuttals and we make some changes to the paper, and then we want to summarize the work we have done. And another joint work with Tom Hope is a generic methodology how to construct synthetic data sets for cross-document fine-grained links, which is very important in the scientific domain, since typically we have cross-document and multi-document reasoning tasks. We have done a lot of recent work in the domain of peer review. We have an empirical study about the question if peer review is really in decline across venues and time, and we find that the answer is negative. Actually, according to our investigation, the quality of peer review has not declined. Then we have work on elevating the quality of peer review through LLM-guided feedback, on introducing verification-first AI paradigm to support validating scientific manuscripts written by AI scientists, humans, or a combination of both. And finally, a method for quality assurance for scientific paper code alignment, which is one instance of these verification-first AI tools. And the last thing I have to share is that our lab has been working together with MBZ UI to develop a tool which will help reviewers to improve the quality of their peer review. So this is basically a writing assistance tools that will be offered on an opt-in basis, starting from the current ARR round, where we just had a deadline today. So this tool will be provided on the webpage, so any person writing a review can upload their review and can receive feedback on the quality of the review to be improved before submitting to ARR. And we plan to enhance this system with multiple AI-based reviewing agents to facilitate reviewing in future. So that's all I have to share today. Thank you very much for your attention. Any questions?
So I can start with one while folks are thinking about questions. Thanks so much for presenting all this interesting work. For a question I'd start with is about novelty and the subjectivity across sort of different annotators, how they disagree with novelty or disagree on novelty. There are a couple of different explanations there, and I'm curious sort of which one you think is more important, or if there are others. So on the one hand, it could be that people have different knowledge of what the most relevant prior work is. And so, they assess novelty differently just because one person knows about a prior work and another doesn't. On the other hand, even when they're sort of comparing to a particular prior work, they might have a different assessment of how similar a new idea is to that prior work. So I guess of these two factors, which do you think is more important, or is there some third thing that's even more important?
So intuitively, I mean, this is not like an empirical answer, but intuitively, I feel like the prior knowledge is really a very crucial factor in assessing the novelty of work. So the second mentioned, like how you, like how much weight you give to different aspects, is a more nuanced judgment. But novelty as such really depends on screening the body of existing work very comprehensively. And I think this differs among humans very much. So that's why we also have such big differences in expert reviews and junior reviewer reviews, because their like background knowledge is much different. And basically the novelty is a delta between this knowledge and the given work. And the comparison itself is also tricky, right? So it requires a lot of experience to assess if the change really matters, right? And there is no ground truth here. I mean, probably on some cases, most experts agree, but this is maybe 20% of the cases in my like personal intuitive judgment. But on many cases, people disagree. And this goes that far to relate to the values that different people within one community might have, because some people may consider something to be novel. For example, let's say like novel method, but maybe differing not much, just a bit. But, you know, some people may be excited and the others not, right? So this is kind of like subjective. And I think in science, like we maybe agree on the very top 10%. So this does not require any discussion, right? So these are the fours in ARR system, with which goes up to 5, but 5 you basically have no such papers. You know, the highest score is probably 4, and this is 10%. But for the rest, you know, it depends how people see it, and they may resolve it to some extent in a discussion, but in peer review, this discussion is very limited, right? So you cannot really discuss much interactively.
Got it. Thanks. Other questions?
Can I jump in? Hi, Iryna. Thanks for the presentation. I have a couple of questions on peer review. So I guess the first half of my question has to do with this. So thinking about peer review from these two dimensions of soundness and novelty, like ARR does. So I think that the automated peer review systems are maybe better equipped at judging something like soundness. So is the, you know, is the study design good? Is it well documented? Are relevant related works cited? But I feel like on the soundness aspect, I'm kind of curious to hear what you think about whether these models are well calibrated to the degree of maybe like deficiencies in soundness. So for example, if a paper fails to cite a single related work, that could be just the author's missing that one paper in good faith. But if it fails to cite an entire field of work, then that's a big problem, right? So how sensitive are these models to small errors versus large errors in soundness? And then the other side on novelty, I guess here's where I feel like in peer review, so much of peer review is about capturing research taste. So going beyond what maybe the authors claim to be novel, or is maybe novel based on prior work, but like where the field thinks novelty lies and we should go. So I guess like a question for you is, do you think that these systems are capable of, maybe not even capable, but just like, are they, like, should we even be asking systems to capture something like research taste in review, or whether that should be disentangled from the rest of the review process.
Okay, so the research taste, I think, is like, long way to go.
Yeah.
But maybe if we can learn something from the past to predict the future, right? So, I mean, there has been no prediction step in the work that I've presented.
Yeah.
But given one could kind of formalize this notion of research taste, whatever, criteria would apply, and we can analyze a lot of scientific papers from the past, we can maybe propose some reward model and try to predict this for the future, right? But to my knowledge, nobody has done that yet. And I think it's very challenging due to the inherent subjectivity of what research taste is. For the first question about soundness, I think especially my last story shows that these systems are not well calibrated at all. So I think they can be very helpful to the human reviewers, because reviewers have these, cognitive limitations. We cannot read an unlimited amount of literature, and extract all this information and so on and so forth. But human reviewers, given a condensed kind of report with this extracted information, can reason with it much more effectively. And I think the current models are not calibrated, so they miss this notion of nuance that humans have based on their long time training. Right, and that leads to another question. I mean, the number of experts in the scientific domain is comparatively limited, right? So for junior reviewers, it takes many years to learn these notions over years. So in talking about scientists, we should also distinguish, I guess, between a smaller number of experienced scientists who have this already, kind of from their experiential knowledge, and a very large number of junior scientists who actually do not have this notion yet, and they need to be trained.
Thank you.